Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance channel. It is time, of course, for a shop tour. Here we are, November 6th, and we had one of my least favorite days of the year last weekend, daylight savings. I don't know about any of you, but I detest daylight savings. It screws my whole equilibrium up. All of a sudden it's dark at 5:30. It's going to be dark at 5 before you know it. Anyway, I wish they'd just pick one and stick with it. That's all I ask. That's my rant of the day. All right, shop tour time. So what we have here is a B16A2. B16A2. Who in the world has a B16? Oh yeah, there's only one. Cliff Ira's Del Sol. So getting ready to assemble his second engine. This is his spare. You can see the blocks wrapped up on the stand, head's ready to go, crank's ready to go, getting everything laid out, just kind of getting started here. Getting ready to assemble this. Like I say, this is he's got a really good engine in the car right now. This is the spare. So I love these little B-Series Honda motors. Man, they're really good engines. And did get in, we can kind of go backwards here a little bit. So here's a car you guys haven't seen in a while. This is Mike Fro's F Production Miata. Some of you have been watching these shop tours for a while, you recognize not only the car, but so this car now has, this is one of them that we did the powder coat to the chassis. This thing still looks really good. The powder coating still looks really good. You know, it's got one of these custom rear shelves that I made. The car still looks great. So he dropped it off Monday morning, first thing. And so I've got his transmission out over there. His engine is here on the stand. We are in disassembly mode. He actually ran 3 seasons with his motor. And it is time for a refresh. So up on the stand for disassembly, inspection. That's kind of my next one to get going there. Did get, well, we'll talk about it when I get down to that end of the shop. Last week, you saw I was finishing up Denny Stripling's. And here is his engine sitting here on the floor, waiting for him to show up on Monday. So you guys have seen these before, but it's got the cut-off valve cover here, just so I can get to the cam gears for dyno tuning, and then this will be replaced with the beautiful powder coated one that's sitting over there on the bench. So he will be here Monday morning, first thing, coming from Florida. So that is marinating. I am going to have Stephen Clark here tomorrow, first thing Friday morning, to dyno his F Production Miata, and he will be picking up his, got these engines just kind of laying around, but he'll be picking up his ITA engine, which is still sitting here completed. So a couple of these are going to be gone by next week's shop tour, which will be good. Did tear into Ken's car. We had talked about, I don't know if I did talk about this, looking at all of Ken's data. Of course, I'm very sensitive now to oil temperature because of what happened to me at the runoffs, but looking at all of Ken's data, his oil temp was a little bit higher, and it's been a little higher than I've been wanting to see. So I decided it was time to tear into the nose. So I pulled the oil cooler out, which sat here, and then I pulled all the ducting out. So this is some of the original duct work that whoever Mark Carpenter had done. So you can see it's got, you know, it's to the age now where it's kind of cracked. Not only that, it's a little flimsy for my liking, and that's why it breaks like this, because it's a little thin. So this ducting has been in this car, I don't even know how many years, long time. So we're going to do a complete redo on oil cooler, brake ducting, and actually even his cool suit box has been giving us trouble. So new cool suit box, we're going to get all this going in time for, if he does it, the January Florida races. So for those of you that don't know, the powers that be down in Central Florida region have decided that they don't want a super tour at Sebring in January. I don't know what it's all about, but here's a real world example of how this may affect their race coming up in January. And Ken lives in Sebring in the wintertime. He's like, I don't know if it's worth the expense to have Joe come down for a non-super tour, do the Homestead and Sebring rounds. He's like, I don't know if it's worth it if it's not a super tour. For anybody down in Central Florida region that's watching, when was the last time you didn't see Ken Kennard at Sebring? It's probably been a long, long time. He hasn't 100% decided yet, but anyway, that's that. Okay, so Mike Fro's car's here. You can see no engine. It's over on the engine stand. No engine transmission. Man, look how pretty this thing is up underneath too. All the powder coating still looks so good on this car. I really dig it. Now, you can see I've shuffled around the shop a little bit because Rich Grunwald's car is sitting over here too. Well, guess what? His car doesn't have an engine either. So got his engine out over the last week, took it all apart. Had a couple comments on last week's shop tour about, remember how I was talking about good oil pressure when cold and then the oil pressure decreases as the oil gets hot. I appreciate some of your guys' comments, like a not tightening up the oil pickup tube or a gasket or whatever. I'd like to think I'm a little better engine builder than that, to not have those kinds of things happen to me. What actually happened, and we don't know exactly which came first, the chicken or the egg, because there was a different oil cooler system in this car, and he has redone the oil cooling system now. But there's a different oil cooling system in the car that had two coolers originally, and I don't even remember when those got put into this car. And I think maybe we had an oil cooler problem initially, and the oil pressure got low, and then Rich went ahead and redid the oil cooling system, and then we had oil pressure problems ever since then. Long story short, what I found in his engine was bad main bearings, a really bad center main bearing, and a crankshaft that was warped almost 7 thousandths, which is way too much. Everything else actually looked pretty good in the engine, so we're going to end up having to do a line bore on the block and a new crankshaft, obviously, and bearings, but everything else looked pretty good. So I think we ran ourselves into a couple of different issues with the original engine that we rebuilt for this past season, but feel pretty confident that we're going to have this resolved and get this motor rebuilt back in the car. Everything should be cool. That's my hope anyway. So these two cars are just kind of now sitting here marinating. I actually have another car that'll be here next week that I'm going to squeeze in right over here too. So it is winter time, and these guys especially that are from the north and the east, Mike's from Elkhart Lake, actually from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, and Rich is from Ohio, and so the winter time can be a problem. So they like to get them here in the fall, and then I'll probably have them here for a few months while we're working on getting them all done. And then in the spring, we'll have the opportunity to have them come pick them up when the weather is much, much better. I wonder who was coming in. You see anything? Is it a semi? Let me look real quick. I do have an engine coming today. Looks to me like it's Amazon. I wonder what it could be. Amazon. Does Amazon show up at your house as much as it does mine? I'll bet it does. Okay, Mazda 2. So you can see I've been chipping away a little bit more. Actually this morning, what have I done? I pulled the intake manifold off. This is just kind of sitting in the port. Not really worried about getting dirt inside of this cylinder head anymore. So you can get a really good look at our little connecting rod that's still hanging out here. But one of the problems that I'm solving is the axle issue. I know we talked about that. So you can see I've got the brakes off, and I actually re-extended the suspension where I want it so that it matches the other side, which was my problem when I extended the axle. Look how much this axle comes out. And when it's all the way out here, it overextended the inner CV joint, which is what failed at the runoffs. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring this axle, getting it right where it should be, and then figuring out how much more extension that I need. Because I found a place. Shout out of the week goes to Bill Lampkin this week. Bill was in the middle. I was talking to him about what he's got going on with his CRX, with his transmission stuff. And he was telling me about how he found this place that can do custom just axle shafts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get these measured, figure out exactly the length that I want, and then I have to take the CVs off and send them just the shaft, telling them how much longer I need it. I'm going to do one on each side, and then I'll be able to get rid of my spacers that I've been using for the axles. So a very precise axle measurement, which I'm working on here. You can see I've got the brakes off. So now that I've got that done, I can pull the axles out and literally get this out. And yep, it's still dripping. It is still dripping oil. So get this out, get the engine disassembled, get the transmission taken apart so I can figure out why this fifth gear keeps popping out. I did a little diagnosis with the shift linkage. The shift linkage is fine. It goes into gear fine. There's something wrong, I think probably with the synchronizer where it sits on the cone of fifth gear, that's creating that issue, but maybe there's too much thrust and it's pushing that slider hub back. So got to figure that out. Obviously get this out and apart. We'll be working on getting the other engine in and a bunch of other little things. So the more I see like this, check this out. I took the axle nut off, which actually wasn't super tight. And then I realized, oh look, this front wheel bearing's not feeling too good. Now with the axle nut tight, it doesn't have that play. But when these bearings were new, which now they've got a couple of seasons on them, and I've heard guys talk about how Mazda 2 front hub bearings, wheel bearings do go bad. Well, go ahead and replace those while I'm at it, and just continue to look over the car to make sure that I'm not finding anything else that's a problem. So that's where we're at for this week. Rocketeer wise, I'm getting close. I'm getting closer. Well, they tell me we're getting closer. So I'm expecting, I've said this before, I'm expecting some progress before the end of the year. It's already November. Ugh. I think once we get our first, all of our kinks out of the way, it's going to go much smoother moving forward. But yeah, it's taking a little longer than I expected for sure. So appreciate you guys watching as always. We will have a shop tour next week, I believe. Right, John? Yeah, we should. Have another car here we can talk about, and we'll talk about how all the dynos are going to go in the next few days between Stefan's and then Denny's the first of next week. So should be looking good. So appreciate you guys watching as always. Thanks for the questions, comments, concerns, and just appreciate you guys watching every week. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.